What is up, everybody? Well, as of now, we are less than a week away, just a couple of days, in fact, from the release of Scream 6. And if you're not somebody that's familiar with my channel or seen my previous reviews on the franchise, I'm a very casual fan of Scream. None of them are like my favorite horror films of all time, even though I did grow up in the 90s. But I am a fan of the franchise, and I would actually argue that it's maybe the most consistent slasher franchise in existence as far as quality and consistency. They have never really made a movie that I have not enjoyed on some level. Even Scream 3, which to me is easily the weakest of the franchise, is still pretty damn solid by most slasher standards. So Scream 6 coming out, I have not watched the trailers. I've avoided, aside from the first trailer, I have not watched any of the continuing marketing for this. I have not read any of the early reactions that have started to come out over the past couple of days. And for the most part, I've been able to avoid what are maybe spoilers, the little video footage that has been leaked out. There was somebody that put a comment with some character names and Ghostface Killer. I'm like, I just scrolled past it really quick, and I don't honestly remember at this point what the names were. So I think I Control-Alt-Deleted my brain in that second. But reason that we're here today is that as somebody that is a casual fan of Scream, there are certain things that I come to these movies for that they consistently deliver. But at this point with the sixth film, there are quite a few things that I hope that they're going to deliver to make this one of the better or one of the more unique entries in the franchise. And so I have 5 things that Scream 6 can do that will really hurt my experience, and then 5 things that Scream 6 can do that will make this one of my favorites in the franchise. So my worries and my hopes together in one video. Let me know your worries and hopes for Scream 6 down in the comment section below, unless you've already seen the movie already. And in that case, shut the fuck up. Don't say a word. But really quick, before we dive into my hopes and worries of Scream 6, while we might not be under a daily threat of a Ghostface Killer, we are under a daily threat of identity theft, and that's where the sponsor of today's video, Aura, can help you. So while a man running around with a ghost mask and a knife is not necessarily a growing concern for most of us, identity theft and cybersecurity absolutely is. In fact, identity theft is the fastest growing crime in the nation, with a new victim nearly every 14 seconds. This is why I'm excited to partner with Aura today, which is an easy to use app that has every single tool that you will need to stay safe while surfing online. Identity theft protection, fraud monitoring, VPN, password management, and antivirus software. And while most of you watching this probably have one or a couple of these things, if you don't have all of them, it's like locking all your doors but leaving all the windows open for Ghostface to climb through. In fact, the day that I activated my Aura account, I got over 50 notifications of my email address showing up on the dark web. And that's a section of the internet where hackers and criminals trade and sell your personal information. And using Aura, you can also get near real-time notifications of any credit inquiries, like if somebody is trying to open up a loan or take out a credit card using your name. So let Aura do the heavy lifting to keep you safe while surfing online by using my exclusive link and getting a 14-day free trial. And you will be shocked at how much of your info they'll be able to find in just those 14 days. So go to aura.com/Cody Leach or use this QR code to start your trial of Aura today. And thank you, Aura, for sponsoring today's video. So we'll kick this off talking about my worries, the 5 things that this movie can do that I will not appreciate and will certainly drop my reception of it when I check it out on Thursday night. And number 5 to me is one that's probably been the most hotly debated, among the most hotly debated details of this film. And that is if this movie tries to use the character of Sidney for some really stupid, lame plot reveal later on in the film. So for those that have been living under a rock, there is a bit of contention going on between the studio and Neve Campbell, who has played Sidney Prescott, the protagonist, the lead character pretty much for all of these films, except for, arguably Scream 5, more of a background character. But between all of the drama going on with, initially it was that they didn't really feel like they had enough for her to do in the movie. And so that was the initial reports. And then it started to talk more about equal pay. And she was getting a monetary offer that she felt was not what she was worth. And so she didn't want to be a part of the film. And there was this back and forth going on and fans debating back and forth for quite a few months. And then these little fan theories and speculations started to come out where a good amount of people were commenting and tweeting saying, oh, you just wait. This is all publicity. This is all a stunt. She's going to be in the third act as a surprise reveal. It's going to come in and save the day. Or maybe they're going to go crazy dark and make her the Ghostface Killer this time. She's going to be in the movie. This is all a bunch of bullshit. And while I will not put it past Hollywood to do something really stupid like that, and so I'm not going to act like I'm going to be genuinely shocked if it does come to fruition, I think that's extremely unlikely because all of the press will operate under the assumption that this is true, that it's all, publicity. All of the press that they have created to do that publicity has been negative and could only potentially hurt the performance of the film. And so to me, that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever for either of them to do. And also just narratively, I think that would be extremely cheap to have the lead character who has been one of the forefront characters in all 5 of these films and then take that character and make her presence in the 6th film a surprise. Not much of a surprise. She's been there since the beginning. What the fuck are you doing? So that is one that, aside from the only version of this that I will accept, depending on the execution, is like, let's say that they've come to some kind of an agreement. Let's say that they've mended fences behind the scenes during the production and the marketing of this film, and they've managed to come to an agreement with Neve Campbell that will come to fruition in Scream 7, and so maybe there's like a post-credit scene that teases her reveal for Scream 7. I'm one of those people that nothing but love for Neve Campbell, and Sidney Prescott is arguably the greatest final girl of all time. I don't think this franchise needs to have Sidney to go on. I think they've done a great job with these newer characters. But if they decide to go that route, that's the only version of this that I would accept. Anything else, that's something that's really going to frustrate me and bring my experience down. Number 4 is kind of going along these lines, and this is another one that's been hotly debated amongst fans very passionately. And number 4 to me is if Gail makes it out of this film. Previous to Scream 5, and, spoiler alert for Scream 5, if you haven't seen the movie, it's been a fucking year. What are you doing? I was somebody that, as much as I love the original characters of the first 3 Scream films, and then, they came back in Scream 4, I was one of the more vocal people saying, okay, it's getting a little bit ridiculous that all 3 of them have survived to this point. It's taken away the stakes, especially if you walk in, they're not going anywhere. It takes away from the tension of the fate of these characters. Scream 5 finally rectified that a little bit with the death of Dewey. I'm one of the people that think that it was executed very well. It was one of the more emotional moments in the film, and I think David Arquette, for his final performance, it was his best performance in that character, in my opinion. Gail, to me, is easily the least important character of these 3, my least favorite of the 3, while still being a good character, not shitting on her, but she's the most expendable as far as I'm concerned. And the fact that she's the only OG character in this film, if she makes it all the way to the end unscathed, to me, that's going to go right back to the way I felt after Scream 4, where I'm going to go, oh my God, like, can we... I'm not saying you have to bring these characters in and start killing them off like the Star Wars sequel trilogy, but for fuck's sake, man, like, Gail still survives. I don't know. Again, depends on execution. I'm just going off of my own little expectations and things that, little bullet points that I would want in this film. But if Gail is put in serious danger in this film and continues to live on as if she's made of fucking armor, I'm not going to appreciate that. Coming in at number 3, another one of my bigger criticisms of the franchise as a whole, and that's if this film just has run-of-the-mill Scream stabby kills. Like, the kills in this franchise sometimes are pretty intense, and they can be pretty mean, especially a couple in Scream 5. They seem like a little more personal with the stabbing and slowly cutting into somebody's throat and stuff like that. But the vast majority of these kills are just stabs. Stab. And I'm somebody, as a slasher fanatic, as a gore hound, I like creative kills. And I think 6 films, I think it's time to start implementing some creative kills. The only one in this entire franchise that is really unique, in my opinion, is from the first film, to where you get, I believe the character's name was Tatum, that's killed in the garage door opener, and I fucking hate that kill. I think it's stupid. So the only creative one we get is one of my least favorites. So if we get Scream 6 and it's just another round of Ghostface just stabbing people, I'm going to be bummed out. Number 2 biggest worries is if they waste the character of Kirby. Now, I'm one of those people that loved that character in Scream 4. I mean, it's not like I'm a rarity. There's a ton of us out there, Kirby for life. But I'm so excited that she's coming back. I was over the moon whenever they announced that. I loved the little Easter egg that they put in Scream 5 and the little YouTube segment that kind of makes it canon that she lived and leave the door open for her to come back if she chose to. And so the fact that we're getting her back is awesome. But if this movie wastes her, if this movie makes her like an opening kill, and aside from... if the movie just sprinkles her in there, like she's got maybe like 2 days worth of shooting as far as the scenes in this film, or if they kill her off in a way that just kind of feels like it's artificially trying to raise the stakes in some way, I'm going to be pretty frustrated because, like, again, especially if it's a movie where Kirby dies and Gail lives. Yeah, look forward to that reaction from me. I think the character of Kirby can function very well as kind of that middle ground between the OG trio characters and this new cast of characters, because she has a bit of that veteran status, but not quite as much as Sidney or Gail or Dewey. And so I would really like it if they perform it well, if they execute it well, where she comes into this film. And if we have to have a recurring character from the previous franchise, the previous trilogy of films and Scream 4, that she becomes that recurring character and not the characters that we've seen ad nauseum at this point. And my number one worry is if the reveal in the third act of the identity of Ghostface is either predictable or underwhelming in some way, because more than half of this franchise, I've kind of had that experience with it. I'm one of those people that, even though I was younger, I didn't know the identity of the two killers in the original Scream, but I saw the whole twist about there being two killers coming. There's one scene where it just seemed like Ghostface was like really in a different part of the house very quickly. Scream 2 was half and half. One character I felt was obvious. The other one was a nice little surprise. Scream 3 I didn't have pegged, but Scream 4 was again half and half. I had one character, Jill, I didn't see coming, but I saw Rory Culkin as a killer pretty quickly. And then Scream 5 to me was easily the weakest reveal of the entire franchise, because I just saw that coming from, 10 minutes into the film. I knew the identity of the killer just by a line of dialogue, and I was like, wait a minute, that motherfucker's the killer. So if they have that happen again in this one, or even worse, that's going to bring it down. When you have a movie that is a whodunit, by nature, even though it's a slasher film, it's still a whodunit at heart, and you already know who done it at some point in the film. It takes away from the impact of the third act. Now moving on to the 5 things that this movie can do that are really going to make me enjoy it and potentially make this one of my favorite Scream films. Coming in at number 5, one of the less significant ones, but one that I hope was not just some kind of a weird marketing gimmick. And that is if they utilize the New York setting to its fullest potential. There's been jokes galore, not just from me, from everybody else, about comparing this to Jason Takes Manhattan, a film that infamously used Manhattan as a marketing ploy and then pretty much did nothing to actually capitalize it in the film. And I have pretty good faith that they're not going to do anything near that embarrassing with this, but I hope that changing the setting, getting out of Woodsboro, putting it in the city, and a lot more people, put it more in the public, brings a lot of a different vibe to the movie, a different pace, maybe a lot more intensity, makes it to where the tension that they go for in this, like the scene that we got in that one trailer where they're in the little mini mart and they're around 5 or 6 other people, but Ghostface still comes in to try to kill their ass. Things like that really gives us a different feel for a Scream film. Or if we just get a lot of really badass New York landscapes, like if they're fucking fighting Ghostface on the Empire State Building or something. I don't know. Probably not. But just, I want the New York setting to feel like it was a good creative choice, not just what's an easy way to make this feel different? Oh, put it in New York. Coming in at number 4 is if they continue to do as good of a job as I think they started in Scream 5 at making this new trilogy a generational shift for the Scream characters. And again, this is something that's a divisive element to these new films. I felt like Scream 5, that Gail and Sidney were very much background characters and only really came into the play in the third act. And even then, they were sharing equal screen time with all the new characters. Dewey was the only one that felt like a real integral character in that one. But to me, that movie was a deliberate shift towards this new cast of characters as becoming our core characters that we're going to follow for the next couple of movies. And so I want them to continue that. I don't want them to get cold feet and start to pull back on those new characters and start to put the OG characters back in the forefront. I think that'd be ridiculous. I think we've seen enough of them. They have their purpose, and I'm sure they're going to fill that purpose in this film and Scream 7 or however many they keep them alive and around for. But this new group of characters, the 2 sisters, the twins, I want them to be the forefront. And I think that this franchise would do good to have some new blood in it, no pun intended, to be the focus of all of our character work. Coming in at number 3 is going to be what type of commentary they decide to explore in this film. And that was one of my biggest worries with Scream 5. because you look at all the Scream films and it was pretty obvious what, as far as the era that those films were released in, what they were going to be commenting on. The first one is just commenting on slashers and movie tropes and horror tropes. The second one comments on sequels. Third one comments on trilogies. Fourth one started commenting on remakes because it was in the 2000s when it was all about remaking and rebooting. And then the fifth one came out, and I was like, what are they going to talk about? What is the state of horror right now that they're going to be able to manipulate for story and be able to do some kind of commentary on? And they ended up talking about fandom and toxic fandom. And it was a nice little surprise because as somebody that, works and constantly interacts with people online, that is very much a big problem nowadays. But now that we talked about that, what new is there to talk about in less than a year? I genuinely don't know. And so I really have no idea what they're going to be talking about. I'm sure that there's going to be something in there. There's going to be some little twist with the killer reveals and their motivations. That's how it all comes together. But I have no idea what it's going to be. I just hope it's as much of a fun surprise as, for example, Scream 5 was, where they start to talk about something and you're like, oh, yeah. That's pretty fucking valid. Coming in at number 2 for me on things that could make this movie really deliver is creative kills. Now, again, I'm kind of reiterating a point from the worries. I just don't want it to be all stabs. But if we get a lot of genuinely creative and gnarly kills in this, that's something that's going to make me forgive any number of the other things that I'm talking about in the worry character, the worry category, to where, they could fumble a little bit with some of the utilization of the characters. They could fumble a little bit in the story. They could fumble a little bit with maybe not utilizing New York to its fullest potential. But if they make some badass kills to where you're sitting there going, oh, that was fucking cool 3 or 4 times throughout the movie, I mean, that's what slasher films are doing. A comedy can have a lot of flaws, but if it makes you laugh your ass off, you forgive a lot. Same with horror. If they make you the cringe and they make you go, oh, blood and guts, you can forgive a lot. But number 1 for me, something that would absolutely solidify this as one of my favorite Scream sequels and something that I will walk out just excited as hell to talk about, is if they genuinely deliver some shocks and surprises, either regarding the identity of the Ghostface killer or the lack of identity with the Ghostface killer. Meaning that by the end of this film, if we get some characters where I'm genuinely shocked and surprised whenever the mask comes off, or if the loud section of Scream fans on Twitter get their way and Matthew Lillard makes his triumphant return as Stu in this one and it's executed well, or my preference, which I don't know if they're going to have the balls to do or not, if Ghostface wins. And if Ghostface, or at least one of the Ghostface killers, goes unidentified. If we get to the end of this film and we feel like there's a victory, and then all of a sudden there's another Ghostface, or one of the 2 or 3 killers in the film remain unidentified, and they carry over that story to the next film, that's something that this franchise has never done before, and that would be a gigantic shot in the arm for creativity, in my opinion, if they executed it correctly. Because as much as a whodunit relies on the Scooby-Doo reveal of who the killer is, you can still satisfy that while at the same time showing that this Ghostface truly is different. And that's something that, it was in the trailer, it's something that they always fucking say, I'm different this time, Gail. You never met one like me, Gail. And we've heard that in the marketing or in a line in the film since 3. And even the characters within the movie don't buy that. By the 3rd one, Sidney was talking shit where she's just like, I'm tired of hearing this shit. Just make your fucking move so I can beat your ass and move on. You get to the 4th one, same thing. It never works out. It never works out. It just always happens this way. You get to the 5th one, the same thing where she's just fucking going through on the cell phone, knows all the moves to make, knows everywhere to check, knows exactly how to dispatch these killers. And then you get into this one, I'm different, Gail. Well, motherfucker, what about you is different? Deliver on that. So that absolutely for me would be the one thing that I would walk out and go, yes, they finally did it. If they can genuinely pull the rug out from under the audience with the Ghostface reveal, or not revealing Ghostface, or all of Ghostfaces. That's what I hope they have the balls to do in this one, to really bring us into a new generation of Scream films. Well, that's it for this one, guys. If you enjoyed this, please click over here for my playlist of all of my Scream reviews so far. I'm also going to put my most recent Scream ranking up here for you to check out. Please like and share and hit that subscribe button so you do not miss my coverage. I'm going to do a review and then, of course, a re-ranking of the franchise once I see the film later on this week. So stick around for that. And as always, remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean you have to be.